a Category 9 to 10 hurricane swept straight across the Gulf of Mexico, crashing against the ship, raising waves 20 to 30 feet high that relentlessly pounded the steel hull. The trawler could only brace itself to avoid being torn away from the swirling dark sea below. The two outriggers, 40 to 60 feet long, shook so violently that the steel joints creaked with each beat, while the hundreds-pound trawl net hanging from the ship's sides was pulled taut by the wind as if it were about to be ripped from its entire frame. But even when any other industry had to stop, the shrimp fishermen in the Gulf still held their nets because they knew that the season would only last for a few short weeks. Mexico currently supplies more than 70% of the United States wild-caught shrimp, making it one of the most important commercial ecosystems for the country's seafood economy. But the first question viewers are forced to confront is whether humanity is conquering nature or merely paying the price with its own lives for a multi-billion-dollar industry. The Discover, storms, nets, and $2 million of shrimp hauled from the Gulf of Mexico. Beneath the soft mud of the Gulf of Mexico lie three commercially important shrimp species that make up the entire southern U.S. seafood economy: brown shrimp, white shrimp, and pink shrimp, each with its own season. They live at varying depths and follow distinct migration paths, but all converge on nutrient-rich shallow waters, where the Mississippi River carries massive amounts of sediment, allowing for peak yields in a very short period each year. Brown shrimp are typically abundant in early summer at depths of 60 to 120 feet. White shrimp concentrate in late summer and early fall in coastal waters, while pink shrimp appear sporadically in winter. Therefore, fishing fleets must constantly monitor seabed migration patterns if they don't want to lose the entire season just because they are a few days behind the optimal time for each species. A commercial shrimp fishing vessel using a double trawling system can harvest between 40 and 80 tons of shrimp during a peak season, equivalent to millions of servings across the United States. Gulf shrimp consistently maintains good prices because it is considered a high-quality protein source and is often preferred by restaurants, creating an incentive for all fishing fleets to stay at sea at all costs. If timed correctly, a trip can generate enormous revenue unmatched by any other industry in this coastal region. But this very financial allure also creates pressure, forcing them to accept life-or-death risks amidst storms. The question is, what truly keeps them afloat in these perilous waters? The resilience of those who depend on the sea for their livelihood, or the immense profits that no one can turn their backs on? Shrimp fishing vessels in the Gulf of Mexico are powered by engines ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 horsepower, enough to continuously tow tons of heavy nets for hours on end, under conditions where most other commercial vessels would be forced to cease operations to avoid risk. From the middle of the hull, two outriggers extend horizontally 40 to 60 feet to the sides, creating a structure resembling giant steel wings that help widen the trawling angle and keep the net taut across the seabed. Double rigging technology allows vessels to deploy two nets simultaneously, doubling yields, and is the reason the Gulf shrimp industry can achieve tens of thousands of tons per season. Experienced sailors are always alert to the slightest metallic screech or unusual vibration, as these are signals that a fracture may be imminent. And when it occurs, it will not give a second warning. In an era where automation and robotics have infiltrated many other industries, the question arises, why can't shrimp fishing, an industry with a high risk of death and heavily reliant on human labor, be completely replaced by machinery? Is it the complexity of the marine environment, operating costs, or seasonal profit pressures that are making humans an indispensable link in this dangerous industrial operation. When the vessel is in the right fishing spot, just one slip of the foot or one ill-timed movement, and the entire net system weighing hundreds of pounds can become a direct threat to the lives of the fishermen. The outriggers are extended, the winch is activated to gradually lower the net into the sea, and each heavy lead weight is carefully adjusted to ensure the net sinks to the desired depth. Sailors often say that casting nets is not just a technical operation, but a test of nerves, because they must remain calm in the face of the tightening metal sounds, the vibrations of the cables, and the constantly changing wind patterns that can ruin the entire process. There is no turning back. Once the net is in the water and the current begins to pull, the ship is forced to continue the process to the end, and any mistake from this point onward will cost time, money, and sometimes even lives. At depths where light can barely reach, the bottom trawl begins to function like an industrial sweeping machine as it glides through the soft mud of the Gulf of Mexico, expanding its mouth along the current and gathering everything in its path. The net's structure is designed to create a wide sweeping force, using two towing boards, also known as otter boards, to hold the net's mouth taut while the weight of the lead pulls the bottom of the net against the mud surface. From an ecological perspective, prolonged trawling near the seabed can disrupt sediment layers, affecting species that depend on benthic ecosystems and causing changes in population structure in some key areas. But the controversial question remains, does each pound of shrimp pulled to the surface come with a price that the ecosystem is silently paying at the bottom of the sea? When the signal from the cabin sounded, the entire crew immediately took their positions because they knew that the moment of pulling in the net was always the most dangerous part of the entire trip. The winch began to turn, the steel cable gradually tightened, and transmitted a powerful vibration to the ship's hull so strong that the deck shook with each pull. While the sailors had to maintain balance amidst the large waves crashing against the ship's sides and the howling wind piercing through the outriggers, warning that any misalignment of the nets on the seabed could cause the system to lose control. When the net bag began to rise from the water, its entire body spun like a giant pendulum, weighing hundreds of pounds, filled with shrimp, miscellaneous fish, and heavy mud, creating a force strong enough to hurl anyone who was standing in the wrong position away. The danger increases as the net approaches the deck. A single, misaligned wave causing the ship to tilt unexpectedly could send the net tumbling to one side like a rolling steel ball. But there was no option to stop, because once the net was up out of the water, the ship had to continue this process until the entire weight was lowered onto the deck, and every sailor understood that success or disaster could be separated by only seconds. At that moment, the only question running through each person's mind was whether this catch would bring a worthy reward or become one of their life or death challenges. When the heavy net bag full of shrimp is brought close to the deck, the entire ship seems to concentrate its weight on that critical moment. Because if the winch reduces its force too suddenly, the heavy net bag will be lost. 800 to 1,500 pounds. It could spin to one side and crash straight down onto the deck. Sailors must use long hooks to control the swinging of the net bag, holding it at the dead point in the center of the deck before unlocking the bottom of the net. Every movement must be precise to the inch, because if the hook slips or the sailor positions their feet incorrectly, they could be sucked into the rotating trajectory of the net bag. When the bottom net was opened, a cacophony of sounds erupted. The sound of shrimp falling to the deck, the thrashing of small fish, and the rushing of water and mud, which covered the deck in a slippery mixture several inches thick. A large haul of fish can bring in 8,000 to 15,000 pounds of shrimp, equivalent 15,000 to 25,000 US dollars. And larger ships can repeat this process 6 to 12 times per night, generating hundreds of thousands of US dollars in total value in less than 12 hours of work. But along with that wealth came a large bycatch of stingrays, miscellaneous fish, bottom-dwelling crabs, and sometimes even juvenile sharks. Sorting took place on the spot under wet deck conditions, flickering lights, and the ship constantly tilting.
That's where it goes.
According to NOAA, more than 40 to 25% of injuries are minor and moderate. These incidents occur on board during the sorting process, mainly due to slips and falls, stingray stings, crab bites, or cuts to the hands from the metal edges of the nets. The work pace leaves almost no room for rest. Just minutes after unloading the shrimp, the crew must clean the deck, check the nets, and prepare for the next haul, as the shrimp move with the tides, and any delay could mean the entire ship misses out on tens of thousands of dollars that would otherwise be lost at the bottom of the sea. In that moment, when the sea tossed a portion of their fortune onto the deck, everyone understood that they were standing on the edge where the reward was enormous, but the risk lurked at every corner of the ship. When the clock passed midnight, the pace of life on the ship did not slow down, but merely shifted to a different state, where sailors had to work with less than 3 to 4 hours of sleep each day, their bodies operating more by habit and experience than by full alertness. Shrimp move with the tides and water temperature, forcing ships to continuously haul nets throughout the night if they don't want to miss the schools of shrimp drifting just below the seabed, making the concept of day and night almost meaningless for those living on deck. Under the dim yellow light shining down on the wet deck, the sorting process took place in a cramped space, the constant whirring of winches, engines, and clanging metal creating a monotonous yet heavy symphony that sailors had to endure for dozens of hours at a time. The storms are no longer as fierce as during the day, but the night shift carries a more insidious danger, where the human body gradually falls behind the relentless rhythm of machinery and the sea. When the ship docks in Louisiana or Texas, the journey through storms and darkness finally comes to an end, and numbers begin to replace the waves to determine whether the voyage was a success or a failure. Each trip, worth millions of dollars, is therefore not only an economic gamble, but also a test of human limits in the face of nature. which is changing faster than any other cycle in the history of this fishing industry. Is $2 million worth of shrimp per shipment enough to keep the industry alive in an increasingly harsh ocean? Or is this the final race between humans and an enraged nature? If you want to continue exploring professions where people risk their lives to sustain the modern world, follow along the Discover, so you don't miss out on the most thrilling adventures on the planet.